right. Well, we're here. This is a continuing series of town coffee chats, town of Orangeville. Joining me today is Councillor Grant Peters. We also have our climate change coordinator, Allison Myles. And joining us from Credit Valley Conservation is Andrew Kett, who's the Senior Manager of Education and Outreach for that organization. We're going to talk about Earth Day, which is today, the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. So it's a great day to celebrate all of the good things that have happened since that this has begun. And Earth Day is really a worldwide phenomenon, and it's organized for countries all around the world to celebrate. And being Earth Day, but there's also Earth Week, and we've done quite a lot here in the town of Orangeville over the past several years to celebrate that. So what we usually do here is just go around the table and do a quick update how people are dealing with COVID-19, both in their family and their work life, and then afterwards we'll get into some Q&A on the good things that are happening with Earth Day. So Allison, again, thanks for joining us today, and I know you've been on board with the town of Orangeville for over a year now as our climate change coordinator. Lots of good things happening. I know in our recent council meeting there was a comprehensive report which included some climate change information. It was fantastic, and we I think this community really is behind all things environmental. We're Grant and I are working on some other things about development, to making sure that development that happens here is as green as it can be. And maybe you can just tell us how you're making out with your family, and how this event, this crisis, has affected your work life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's definitely a challenging time, I think, for everyone right now. But generally, I'm just really thankful. Me and my family have remained to stay safe and healthy, knock on wood so far. I did actually move back in with my parents just to kind of have some company during social isolation. Right. Yeah. So that's been a bit of an adjustment, but it actually has been pretty great. So generally just very grateful that we're able to stay home and safe. In terms of work, again, I'm really lucky that a lot of the work I was doing as is was on my laptop. So I'm able to continue everything that I was working on. The only kind of hiccup in that is we were planning to do some community engagement events this month and next month for the climate change adaptation plan. So one of my tasks has been kind of transitioning that material that would have been kind of an in-person event into an online opportunity for residents to offer feedback. So that's one of the things I've been working on. And additionally, also kind of helping out with communications, things like that on COVID. So that's kind of what I've been up to.
Great. Well, I hope that these community engagement events, we can use the term postponement rather than cancellation. Absolutely. That once we're given the all clear signal by our public health officials, that we can start planning and implementing those in the coming months. So yes. Stay tuned, everybody. We're going to make those things happen as soon as we can. So Andrew, again, thanks for being on board. First time I've had a chance to speak with you and meet you virtually. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for all the good things that you do with CVC. So how long have you been with CVC, and how are you making out with your family, and what work is CVC continuing to do under these unusual circumstances we find ourselves in?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and happy Earth Day. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you here today. And just first, on behalf of Credit Valley Conservation, I just wanted to express my appreciation for all of our health professionals and frontline and essential workers for their bravery and their hard work to keep us safe.
Absolutely.
I know in my community, there's been quite an outpouring of community and neighborly support that I find really heartwarming. And as for work at Credit Valley Conservation, complying with the provincial emergency order that our offices and our conservation areas are all closed. But similar to the town, our staff, where possible, are continuing to work from home. and continuing to deliver on our mission to protect the environment. So yeah, so for me as well, most of my work is in public education and public engagement. So we've really been pivoting a lot of our activities into the online and digital space, and doing community consultations and workshops online, and trying to keep those connections to our communities open. So that's been really interesting. Lots of really creative work going on. Um, at home for me, it's been wonderful. Spending a bit of extra time with my family, and very grateful everyone here is healthy and happy. The kids are adjusting to the new reality of school, and my commute to my home office is second to none. So yeah, no, I can't complain.
Good. So it's interesting. We had a coffee chat the other day. We brought in some educational experts, including the principal of one of our local high schools, an elementary school teacher, and some post-secondary advocates, including Councillor Joe Andrews, who is a principal of Humber College in Orangeville, and Lisa Post, another councillor who is actually attending. So these new what the education systems are trying to do now is engage their students virtually. So this might be a silver lining for you, and be able to engage virtually, and maybe get more touches out there in the future through this type of platform that we're on today, and other platforms that the education systems are using. So it might be a good thing for you in your outreach.
Absolutely. I think, how just as every challenge can be reframed as an opportunity, I think this is a real opportunity for us to accelerate that kind of work that we've been doing digital engagement for years now, in certain contexts or circumstances. But I think this is really motivating us to grow all that work. And I think it's a great opportunity to reach more people, and like I said, further our mission of environmental protection.
Yeah, we've been talking town council for some time about the railway that we own, and there's some thought about trying to I guess change that into a recreational trail, and I think that is on the topic of discussion right now. And looking at blue skying that down the road, I was just thinking that there's a potential there to add some digital engagement. If you're on a recreational trail and you come to a lookout that happens to be overlooking a historical area or a natural heritage feature, that somehow there'll be some way to connect and give a story about what is going on that trail. So I know Credit Valley Conservation is talking about this trail system from Lake Ontario all the way up to Headwaters Country, that there's some planning starting to go, and maybe these two projects will mesh at some point. But the idea of providing digital engagement as well as the beauty of nature as we go through, I think is something that we need to work on, and I think it's all doable right now. So hopefully we can make that happen if and when this trail system does roll out. So thanks, Andrew. So Councillor Peters, thank you again. We've done this a couple times now, and you've been deeply involved in OSAT, the previously renamed Sustainable Orangeville, for a number of years now. In your private life, your work life, you're an environmental engineer, so you help companies do developments with a green outlook on the buildings and development. So I know Earth Day is something that you've been involved in for many years. You're really supportive of the community and getting the engagement. I know I've been out to 2 or 3 tree planting opportunities that we've partnered with CVC on, and it's always a great day It's too bad that Make Orangeville Shine has been postponed. That was always a great opportunity for people to get out and help get rid of some of the winter collection of garbage that sometimes, as the result of the winds of November blowing through garbage bins and what have you, and ending up in snowbanks. And but it's just, I think it's delayed and postponed, and hopefully we'll get through that. But can you just share with the group again what you're doing to keep busy with your family and work life?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to see the silver lining in this whole thing as well. So taking a little more time with the kids, focusing on some more life skills type education rather than book smarts, if you will. They love doing that part too, but some more work around the house, and they're trying to stay engaged with their friends using various platforms, and which is good to see. So there's some technological skills being developed there as well, which is positive. But yeah, this whole thing was a bit poorly timed. Not that we had a choice, but to have this spring season with tree plantings and gardening projects, and even around the house, getting things tidied up, like you said, Make Orangeville Shine, having to postpone a lot of these events will be hard to swallow for some of the community, but rest assured they will still happen, and I think there'll be a flurry of activity and engagement by the community when we're finally able to do so. I think some of that pent up energy will be very productively spent in the warmer months. So very much looking forward to that. And a lot of the great things we had planned for Earth Week, we'll have a replacement Earth Week, if you will. Really extending that season. Started as Earth Day. It's now formally recognized as Earth Week, but the people that live and breathe it, there's no time period associated with it, really. It's just a way of life, and a mentality that a lot of people have embraced, and that's really encouraging. So we're gonna have a ton of events coming up that were postponed, but will be just as engaging, if not more so, when we finally get out there and start digging up the dirt and making those projects happen.
Yeah, great. So you circulated this morning a petition that Mike Schreiner of the Green Party was putting out there. This was a petition to Premier Ford regarding community gardens. And when we say community gardens, we mean the food growing type of community garden that for some reason has been left off essential workplaces. And I know you brought this up at our council meeting, and that I think our council is very supportive of trying to get this community garden opened up for the planting season. I would hope that on Thursday we're going to learn some more. I understand that Mr. Ford is going to announce some relaxations or changes to the essential workplaces, and hopefully the community gardens with the proper physical distancing, maybe some signage and training for those people that are going to use those gardens, that we can open them up again.
Yeah, exactly. The community gardens sort of walks the line between being a recreational facility and being agriculture, really. So, with the emphasis on food security and public safety and local economies, I think I feel very strongly that community gardens with the right protocols should be in place. And there's a growing number of people that agree with that statement. And there are actually several petitions calling for that change in policy, and hopefully the government agrees.
Yeah. And the term urban harvest is something that's been around for a long time, but in Orangeville, it sort of picked up some steam in the last 2 or 3 years. So, this is part of that, encouraging people to grow their own produce and food. And it's a great initiative, and we need to continue to foster that. I see that the city of Brampton is also putting together a program for people to start growing things in their backyard and to push that. Some sort of a kit that they put together for people, or
yeah, and they've had, to my knowledge, over 2,000 residents or households apply for that program. So wildly popular. They also have a fairly extensive community garden program, and a few sustainable neighborhood action plans in Brampton that have emphasized community gardening as well. So not everybody has a plot of land that they can work with, which is where the community gardens come in. But certainly, I think we're seeing a rise in some of those homestead type applications. More cooking at home, more gardening, that sort of thing, and people are realizing some of those skills that make them more self-reliant, and that can only benefit society in the long term.
Yeah, maybe you and I and the rest of council, we can start thinking about that and maybe incorporate it into our budget discussions in the fall of 2020, and maybe launch something in 2021 to get our residents more engaged in that.
Love to. Actually, while we have Andrew on the call, do you know, did CBC partner with the city in that regard? Is there any collaboration on the gardening side?
No, CBC hasn't partnered directly with the city on the community gardens, but it's a space that we do quite a bit of work in, mostly on the residential side. So doing education and providing support services for homeowners to do sustainable gardening and landscaping on their properties. But in light of the current context, it's something that we're definitely looking into and seeing how we can support our municipal partners to achieve their goals. And as you mentioned, do these activities that all have all these co-benefits for communities, including food security.
Great.
So again, this virtual platform idea, Andrew, I mean, I can see maybe in the early part of 2021 having some sort of an online webinar, maybe inviting somebody like yourself to come on and speak to our residents about how they can get this started, and hopefully the town can provide some kits, and we could push this in 2021. Yeah, very good. So I guess I wanted to talk a little bit. I mentioned it just before we came on live here that Mother Earth seems to be regenerating herself in the midst of the stop of manufacturing all over the world. It's very interesting. I know in India there's been sightings of blue sky for once in many years. And what are your thoughts about this pause that we've had in Allison, what do you think? What do you think about what's going on? And is it a good thing, or?
I think it's a bit of a wake-up call, and I think that's going towards environment, like even just kind of reprioritizing what's important during this time, I think is huge. But another thing that I've been reading a lot about is kind of the intersections between our response to COVID and our response to climate change as well. So that's kind of been some interesting reading that I've been doing. And not necessarily saying that it's the same. Obviously, they're very different issues, but just the collective response and the global response to COVID does kind of offer an opportunity that there is hope, and that we can kind of collectively respond to climate change in the same way and see positive change. So, I mean, that's kind of been something that I've taken from this and put a positive spin on not a so positive issue. And I've also read a ton of things about wildlife sightings that we haven't seen in years or decades even, because of there not being people there and there not being as much kind of hustle bustle. So I hope that when we come out of this, we can kind of build back better and change some of our norms to keep some of these positive impacts lasting.
Right. It is remarkable how the entire world is focused on this one issue right now. And as you say, it'd be nice if we could follow up on some further focus on the environment. That the young woman Greta Thunberg, who really became sort of a spokesperson for the environment and climate change, did bring a lot of attention to environmental issues, and so good for her. And let's hope we can continue that discussion once we get through this other healthcare crisis. But you're right, it's linked, and it's amazing that the whole global community is now focused in one area. We know we can do it, and we need to make sure our leaders all over the world focus on this for sure. So, yeah, great. So Andrew, what are some of the exciting things that CBC were doing prior to COVID? Like, have you got, I know this trail system I mentioned earlier, but any other good things that CBC is trying to accomplish in the near term?
Absolutely. Well, speaking to Earth Day in particular, that as you're aware, that our or Orangeville Community Earth Day tree planting, the event that we partner with Sustainable Orangeville, we've postponed that to be rescheduled at a later date. But as I've alluded to, we're using a lot of online engagement now to keep in touch with people and get out messages and encourage personal action related to Earth Day. So so through social media, Credit Valley Conservation is going to be hosting an Earth Week challenge starting today. And I think the key message here is that even though we're spending Earth Day at home, that there are still lots of positive environmental actions that we can all do in and around our homes or safely in our communities, practicing safe social or physical distancing. And so this Earth Week challenge is going to be posting through social media like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We'll have one call to action each day for a week where residents can participate and engage with Credit Valley Conservation and one another. And we'll also be choosing winners each day that will receive free native trees or plants from our nursery, of course, once things are back up and running. So that's one example of ways that we're continuing to engage. And if you look at any of our social media platforms, you'll see how to get involved with that. We've also, as I mentioned, moved some of our engagement activities online. So for example, we run a series of different workshops with homeowners around gardening and landscaping. And so we have some webinars coming up around how to care for your green yard, how to enhance your backyard landscape for birds. And those are listed on our website as well. So we're very quickly transforming our entire calendar of events into webinars and chats and other ways to engage with each other electronically. And finally, I'll just mention our education staff as well. As you know, we run a couple of outdoor education centers and do lots of field trips for children and youth. And so Credit Valley Conservation education staff have created a series of videos around how children can continue to engage with nature. Through this, we all know that experiences in nature and spending time in green spaces is really important for childhood health and well-being. So I would encourage everyone to take a look again at our social media, our YouTube, for those videos. Really simple activities that anyone can do with their children, whether it's in a backyard, a balcony, or even just opening the window and letting some nature into the home.
Great, excellent. Grant, you and I had some conversations in the past couple of days about the initiative that the mayor of Montreal had put forward, and we've decided to jump on board. I know Allison is aware of this and has helped us. Can you share with us what some of those things are? I know there was a tree planting initiative, a relay across Canada, and also some online engagement that's available now.
Yeah, and I think this is the opportunity when people are spending a little more time online and looking for resources and have a bit of free time to themselves, hopefully, where these things will start to gain some traction and awareness. So yeah, in terms of the tree planting, it's almost like a chain across the nation, basically, to just have these projects take place and really map them out and demonstrate all the different municipalities that are doing things of this nature for this cause. There's a lot of the sort of, I'll call them standard Earth Day activities or encouragements in terms of litter and in terms of education and watersheds and just exploring nature. And as Andrew alluded to it, to be surrounded by nature and to enjoy nature helps to inspire people to take care of it. The more you interact with it, the more empathy there is there, and the more action someone will take. So this is a very positive sort of message coming out of Montreal, which has some very forward-thinking environmental principles and policies over the last several years. And it's good to see someone sort of striking a national initiative like this, so that other municipalities like our own, who may not be the one to come up with the idea necessarily, but can certainly tag along and encourage this type of activity. And hopefully it's someone everyone engages with, and it grows exponentially.
Yeah, I think Mayor Valerie Plant's challenge was 50 trees to celebrate 50 years of Earth Week, and every municipality would plant 50 trees this year. So, we've signed on to and promised to do that, and I hope her initiative is taken up by every town and city across the country.
Yeah, and
the other thing that's interesting too is that earthday.org has a lot of really good information, and they've turned the focus on to things to do at home as well. So
exactly.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you there for a second.
That's quite all right. I was just going to say, for those keeping count at home, Orangeville has been planting hundreds every year, but we would add this 50. We wouldn't double count those 50. So we definitely would find a number of projects that we could add those to. And as people are spending a little more time walking around the neighborhood for want of more enjoyable things to do, maybe not in today's weather, but to take a look around at your own property, at your neighboring properties, and if you have locations where you think the canopy can be improved while we're talking about tree planting, send councillor or town staff an email, and we'd really like to fill the town in. We adopted a tree policy a couple of meetings ago, trying to hit 40% canopy, which is sort of a tipping point for cooling and nature's productivity and that kind of thing. So a lot of great benefits for it. And if you have any thoughts while you're walking around the neighborhood for improvements, be them environmental or otherwise, we're all ears.
Yeah, and I, my other hat that I wear is I'm a realtor, and we talk about curb appeal, we talk about the intrinsic value in landscaping, and trees are always a very attractive and valuable addition to a property. So if your property's barren, you're doing yourself a favor if you do some planting on your property. So it's a positive thing for the environment, and it's a positive thing for your pocketbook down the road for sure.
That's right.
So hey, we're just about out of time here. We put kind of a 30-minute cap on this, because if we go too far past that, you lose the audience. But I really want to thank you all again, and maybe just give one more opportunity for everybody just to have a final statement, about Earth Day or whatever else. And Allison, do you want to start off and give us a final little statement? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think mine, so how I'm going to celebrate Earth Day this year is honestly just getting more informed. You can never overeducate. So just dedicating a few hours today or this week, if you can, to learning more about whatever topic interests you most. Doesn't have to be climate change, but that is the theme of Earth Day this year. So anything like that, even just learning ways that you can make a difference at the individual or household scale. It's those actions that really do result in collective solutions. And as Mayor Brown suggested too, there's a bunch of resources online for finding things you can do at home that are even directed towards keeping the kids busy, which I know everyone's trying to do right now. So earthday.org or earthday.ca are both great resources for finding organized lists of different things that you can do at home to celebrate Earth Day or Earth Week. And then just quickly, I came across a really cool resource this morning that was launched. It's called Earth School, and the United Nations Environment Program teamed up with TED Talks. So it's an online resource for kids to connect with nature. So that's something to check out too. And CBC's resources sounds amazing too.
Very good. Well, thank you. Andrew, so can you give us a final little bit of inspiration?
Absolutely. Well, and to follow up on our talk about tree planting, so the number I have here that the town of Orangeville and CVC in partnership, we've planted 8,000 259 trees in the last 10 years.
Amazing.
So we can't wait to get back and keep that work up. I'd just really like to express my thanks and gratitude to the town and to all of our community partners and volunteers in Orangeville. We've had thousands of people out in Orangeville doing environmental stewardship work, and you can just feel the strong support for environmental protection in the town. And I guess my final thought would just be that I think this situation has shown us really how much individual actions matter and how we are all so deeply connected. I think it's a great opportunity for us to reflect a bit about the world that we want when daily life starts up again, as it were. And I would encourage everyone to take a look at our website, cvc.ca, and there are some resources for homeowners. We have a program where homeowners can receive a free tree to plant in their backyard. And so please take a look at those resources, as well as some of the other educational and Earth Week activities that I've mentioned. But I guess I'll just end by saying that I really wish we could be out there planting trees together this Earth Day. But we'll say that that's postponed to another time. And for now, just stay safe and take care of one another and the Earth. And we hope we'll be out there shovel in hand really soon.
Great. And I just also wanted to say on behalf of, the town of Orangeville and really all the people in our region, how fortunate we are to have Island Lake Conservation Area as our next door neighbor. It's a fantastic facility. It continues to evolve every year. This year, the new playscape, and I'm a member of the Lions Club. We chipped in significantly, as well as the Rotary Club, to that playscape. It's going to be a marvelous thing. There's a covered bridge, I know, as part of, I'm a member of Friends of Island Lake as well, and there's a covered bridge project. Lots of great things. Of course, the bridge and trail system is marvelous, and people don't. So there's some people in Orangeville who have never been to Island Lake, which is crazy. But hopefully, we can continue to encourage people to get over there, because it's just a marvelous resource, and we're so fortunate to have it in our backyard. So thank you to CVC. Yeah. Grant, so final thoughts.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Andy. It's as I stated at the council meeting earlier this week, the UN has declared this the decade for action, specifically as it relates to climate change and sustainability. So that's a very positive message to be sending at the dawn of a new decade here. And to build on Allison and Andrew's points, we haven't seen this sort of collective action that we're all adhering to right now for the COVID crisis. And the biggest hurdle to a lot of people's minds regarding sustainability and climate change was getting everyone engaged. And we've now shown during this crisis that we can get everyone engaged on an issue when it's critically important. And I think people are starting to realize how important this issue will be as well once we get out of the COVID situation, and rebuilding the world we want to see with this opportunity, I think is a fantastic way to look forward to when things get back on track. And I would encourage everybody, while you have a little extra time on your hands, to educate yourself, as Allison said, and to think about what things you'd like to see happen as they relate to climate change and sustainability, because we need to have that input and that dialogue between now and when things get started back up again, so that the right policies and procedures and actions can be taken.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, it's interesting, because scientists have said that the atmosphere, there's sort of a tipping point, and if we let it go too far, it's going to be beyond reclamation. But I wonder what the measurements are going to be now. Like, we've actually thrown things into reverse now with respect to the atmosphere, at least. I wonder what the CO2 levels and what have you are going to be right now and in the months ahead. I think it's been, that's another silver lining here, that the atmosphere has been given sort of a new lease by all the inactivity that's gone on. So that's a good thing for climate change, I think, and for the earth. So my final thoughts are, you know, all three of you, you're engaged in something that you're passionate about, and it comes through in the delivery. You know, when people are happy in what they're doing, it's very satisfying, and I can see in all of you that you're passionate about what you're doing in your work lives. So thank you for that, and we appreciate all the work that's been done on all kinds of levels to celebrate Earth and our natural heritage in this area. So, and all of you are part of that. So thanks very much. So that's it for today's coffee chat. Again, I want to thank Allison, Myles, the Town of Orangeville Climate Coordinator, Andrew Kett, who is Senior Manager of Education and Outreach for Credit Valley Conservation, and Councillor Grant Peters, who in his work life is also an environmental engineer and loves to work with the community on environmental issues. So thanks again. All the best, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.